Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to talk about the downfall of Bollywood. For decades, Bollywood was not merely an industry, it was an emotional empire. It shaped the dreams of millions, created fashion trends, influenced family conversations, and provided an escape from the chaos of daily life. For over a century, the Hindi film industry functioned as India's most powerful cultural engine. Every Friday was a mini festival. Every superstar was a household name. And every iconic song or dialogue found its way into the country's collective memory. There was a time when Bollywood was synonymous with India itself. But as we entered the late 2010s and especially the early 2020s, a dramatic transformation began to unfold. One that slowly but unmistakably revealed the industry's deep cracks. The downfall of Bollywood was not a sudden collapse. It was the result of decades of creative stagnation and structural arrogance that eventually collided with a generation of audience who were no longer willing to accept mediocrity. To understand this downfall, we must first revisit the roots of Bollywood's greatness. In the 1950s and 1960s, the Hindi film industry produced cinema that was emotionally mature, socially conscious, and musically rich. Directors like Guru Dutt, Bimal Roy, and Raj Kapoor created films that touched the soul. The stories reflected the aspirations and pains of a newly independent nation. They explored poverty, dreams, love, heartbreak, and moral dilemmas. Hindi film music from this era became immortal, with melodies that continue to echo through the generations. The actors of that time, from Dilip Kumar to Nargis to Meena Kumari, performed with a depth and sincerity that made the audience feel every emotion as their own. Cinema was not just entertainment, it was a shared national language. But as decades passed and India moved into the 1980s and 1990s, Bollywood shifted into a new phase. The Masala era began. Action heavy films, dramatic storylines, exaggerated villains, and iconic dance numbers. It was a time of bright colors, loud emotions, and theatrical expressions. This style resonated deeply with the masses, especially with the growing urban middle class that craved escapist entertainment. Stars like Amitabh Bachchan became legends, almost core-like figures whose songs and dialogues defined an entire generation. The 2000s brought globalization, corporatization, and a newfound obsession with glamour. Bollywood became slicker, richer, and more polished. Films were shot in foreign locations, brand promotions exploded, and multiplex culture began to reshape cinematic taste. A new generation of stars, including Shah Rukh Khan, Amir Khan, Salman Khan, Hrithik Roshan, became the faces of India's global entertainment identity. Hindi cinema found a lucrative market in the diaspora, especially in the US, UK, and Middle East. It seems unstoppable, invincible, and fully prepared to enter the future. But beneath this glitter, Bollywood was quietly losing its storytelling soul. It began prioritizing box office numbers over originality, star power over acting ability, and marketing hype over meaningful scripts. At the center of this decade was a problem that became impossible to ignore: nepotism. While the film industry has always had families passing down their craft, Bollywood's nepotism became increasingly exclusionary. Opportunities, resources, and even publicity seemed locked inside a small circle of influential insiders. Directors, producers, PR agencies, and film families controlled who got discovered and who got sidelined. Talented outsiders struggled against an invincible wall of bias. Many brilliant actors and writers who should have transformed the industry had to spend years fighting for a chance that star kids received effortlessly. Audiences eventually began to notice this. They started questioning why actors with limited range were receiving one film after another, even after repeated failures, while genuinely skilled performers were ignored. Nepotism became a symbol of Bollywood's arrogance, a refusal to evolve, a refusal to allow fresh talent, and a refusal to accept that the audience had moved far ahead. As nepotism grew, so did creative stagnation. Bollywood became trapped in its own formulas. The same love stories, the same dramatic family conflict, the same item songs, and the same over the top characters flooded the screens year after year. The industry prioritized glamour over substance and spectacle over storytelling. Music, once the lifeblood of Hindi cinema, deteriorated into loud remixes, recycled beats, and shallow lyrics meant only for quick virality. Songs became marketing tools rather than artistic expressions. Screenwriting, the backbone of any great film, was treated as an afterthought, resulting in shallow characters and predictable plots. Audiences grew tired, bored, and eventually frustrated with Bollywood's refusal to reinvent itself. Then came the silent revolution that truly shook Bollywood. The rise of OTT platforms, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hotstar, and other streaming services gave viewers access to global content. Suddenly, Indian audiences exposed to Korean dramas, American thrillers, and European crime series were no longer satisfied with Bollywood's repetitive storytelling. OTT platforms showcased realism, experimentation, and bold narratives that Bollywood never dared to touch. Shows like Mirzapur and Family Man redefined Indian entertainment. They introduced new actors, fresh writers, and gripping storytelling that felt authentic and relevant. For the first time, Bollywood was no longer the only source of entertainment for Indian households. The monopoly was broken. Audiences realized that cinema could be intelligent, layered, and thought provoking. Hindi films began to appear outdated, even childish in comparison. The decline accelerated further after the tragic death of Sushant Singh Rajput in 2020. His passing unleashed a nationwide emotional explosion. For many, he symbolized the outsider who fought against a biased system. Whether or not conspiracy theories had truth behind them, the public anger was undeniable. Bollywood's elite image, glamorous, privileged, untouchable, suddenly became a symbol of arrogance and moral emptiness. The industry's silence, the media circus, and the lack of accountability intensified public resentment. The hashtag boycott Bollywood movement began trending regularly. Big films began failing spectacularly at the box office. For the first time in history, audiences were actively choosing to reject Bollywood films, not out of lack of interest, but as a form of protest. Another major reason for Bollywood's downfall is its widening disconnect from the real India. As the country underwent massive cultural, social, and political transformation, Bollywood continued to portray a fantasy world that no longer resonated. Films often focused on elite lifestyles, unrealistic romance, and foreign backdrops that felt alien to the average viewer. Meanwhile, South Indian industries, Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, and Kannada cinema were telling stories deeply rooted in culture, identity, and raw emotion. Movies like Bahubali, RRR, KGF, Kantara, Pushpa, Vikram, Kumbalangi Nights, and Loka became national sensations because they were bold, authentic, and unapologetically rooted in their respective cultures. They offered what Bollywood failed to deliver: originality, emotional intensity, and a sense of belonging. These films reignited the idea of Indian mass cinema, while Bollywood remained stuck in glossy superficiality. Yet, despite all these challenges, Bollywood is not beyond redemption. The downfall may be dramatic, but it's not irreversible. Every industry goes through phases of stagnation and rebirth. For Bollywood to rise again, it must accept its flaws with humility. It must rebuild itself from the foundation. prioritizing writers, embracing newcomers, respecting audience intelligence, experimenting with new ideas, reconnecting with the cultural roots of India. It must let go of inflated egos, unhealthy cliches, and outdated formulas. Cinema is ultimately about storytelling, and great stories can come from anywhere, not just from established families or privileged circles. So, what do you guys think about Bollywood's downfall? Thanks for watching.